Hi, hello everyone. We'll start now. Good afternoon. I'm Vineha Katkar from PCI India, and I welcome to you all to W4HER's first webinar, which is on SHGs and health and nutrition enterprises. So, W4HER, that is Women's Empowerment for Health, Environment, and Resilience, is a series which is going to focus on the journeys of members of self help groups. And the series is going to celebrate the courage, efforts, and achievements of the women champions in different walks of life. So, today in this first webinar, we are going to learn about, as I mentioned, SHGs and HNE. Before we start, I request you all to introduce yourselves in the chat box with your name and organization of association. And I will also go over a quick housekeeping rules so that the event flows smoothly. One is that we have muted all participants for the duration of the presentations so that there are no interruptions. And you'll only be able to unmute yourself during the question and answer time that we have scheduled towards the end. And we also encourage you to ask questions and share your observations in the chat meanwhile. And we'll get back to those as I mentioned in the Q&A session. I would also like to bring your attention to the fact that the meeting is being recorded and also being live streamed on YouTube. And now let me introduce you to our moderator, Mr. Prasanth Thatte, who is with me right now. So Prasanth Thatte has been working in the development sector for more than 24 years. His major areas of work are impact evaluation and program management. Since 2009, he's working with PCI India as Director of Knowledge Management. And Prasanth has also worked with multiple corporate and non-profit sector organizations. So over to you, Mr. Prasanth.
Thanks, Vineha, and hello and welcome, a very warm welcome to all the participants to this first webinar in the W4HER series. I also welcome all the speakers who have agreed to be with us on this panel today. Before we get into the presentations, just a brief introduction to the theme. I won't really call it an introduction because all of the people present here, all the guests are very well versed with self-help groups, women's collectives. Women collectives in different forms have had a long history in India, and we all know that they were brought under the national umbrella and given a systematic push after the emergence of National Rural Livelihoods Mission and the various states level rural livelihood societies across the country from 2005 onwards. Although these were originally mandated to undertake savings and various microcredit credit activities, the SHGs and SHG federations have gradually been encouraged to take up entrepreneurial activities as well. And it has been realized that women-led enterprises can serve multiple purposes at once. Apart from adding to women's incomes and their ability to manage small and medium businesses, these can also contribute to improving access to health and nutrition products and services for the rural populations. In today's webinar, we will bring to you examples of this sort of enterprises, the enterprises focused on health and nutrition products and services, or what we also call FNHW enterprises, food, nutrition, health, and wash enterprises. From across the country, we are taking up examples from across the country and from different subsectors. To talk about the success, achievements, and challenges faced by these enterprises, and to share with us the key learnings, we have a distinguished panel of speakers with us today. We will start with Dr. Amrita Mishra, my colleague and Director of Health and Nutrition at PCI India. She is going to present the key learnings from one of our studies of a select group of health and nutrition enterprises promoted by DAY and RLM in different states. She will talk about what makes these enterprises successful and which of these are really replicable and scalable. Before I hand it over to Dr. Amrita, let me urge you to please be ready with your questions. Once our speakers have finished with their presentations, we will be very happy to hear from you. Over to you, Dr. Amrita. You are on mute. Amrita, are you facing any trouble in communicating? Okay. Are you unable to hear us? Or you're not getting a voice or, okay, she's not getting any output.
Just 1 second.
Yes, now you've
Yeah.
unmuted me.
Now
Yes. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So we are unable to unmute ourselves. So I think Vineha, you have to do that. Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much, Prasanth, and very happy to be here to be sharing some of the work that we've done with the DNRLM as PCI technical assistance to DNRLM, a project that we were handling for over 3 years and embedded in DNRLM. So this was an exercise that we did as part of our work, and I'd like to share some of the more interesting findings from this assessment. So what we did was an assessment of some of the women-led enterprises. As Prasanna said, these are enterprises that work on health and nutrition goods or services. The assessment was carried out in coordination with NRLM and with the joint team of NRLM as well as PCI. Let's go to the next one. So the idea of doing this assessment was to understand successful FNHW enterprise models. Those models that have the potential for replicability and scalability. We also wanted to identify the policies of each state where the policies have encouraged enterprises and promoted enterprises. And finally, we wanted to identify 2 to 3 scalable and replicable enterprises and create a learning document for establishing such enterprises in other states as well. Along with the non-farm team of DNRLM, the team that is responsible for helping such enterprises, we identified 11 enterprises from across the country. So we sought feedback from all 34 SRLMs of the country on who would want to participate in the study, and based on their agreement as well as their inputs from the field, we identified these 11 enterprises that were spread across the country. So some in Bihar, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Uttarakhand, and Tamil Nadu. Each one of these enterprises was doing something slightly differently or the same thing in a different way. So these enterprises are named here. Some of the ones in Bihar were Didi Ki Rasoi. I think a lot of you must have heard of this enterprise. It's doing very well in Bihar. We studied this enterprise in Hajipur Hospital, Sadar Hospital. Vitamix fortified diet mix in Bihar again. In Maharashtra, we did Jyoti Industries, which is located in Latur. Umed Nutri Cookies located in Palghar. In Madhya Pradesh, we did a sanitary napkin assessment, unit assessment in Shivpuri. Karnataka, Mira Chikki unit. Kerala Nutrimix, which was a nutrition mix for pregnant and lactating women and children in Thrissur. Santhanam was a very interesting model of providing services for checking blood sugar, blood BP, BMI, etc. again in Thrissur. Uttarakhand, this was a bakery model that provides to ICDS in Rudrapur. And in Tamil Nadu, women health volunteers, where women were being trained, SHG women were being trained for NCD screening in convergence with the health department. And again in Tamil Nadu, Sinir Kupam sanitary napkin, which is a huge multi-district setup called TN Sanfed. producing sanitary napkins. So these were some of the good enterprises that we studied, and we assessed them on many, many different parameters. Can you go to the next one, please? Before I get into the parameters, so what we did was basically 3 methods of assessment. One was directed observation of the enterprise in action. So the assessors went to the field and observed the enterprise in action over a period of 3 to 4 to 5 days, interacted with all the stakeholders, and also conducted secondary review of all the materials that were available at the enterprise and as well as with the government, the SRLM that was supporting that particular enterprise. A lot of women were interviewed. The women involved in the enterprise itself were interviewed, their household members, the consumers of the products, the CLF members, and the community influencers, as well as the government stakeholders of all these enterprises were interviewed. Next, please. So this is an overview of the enterprise. I won't go into the details of it. It's a lot of information, but basically, as I explained in the first slide, each enterprise was engaged in doing something different. Some of them were producing nutri-related goods, and we selected those that had some nutritional value. Not just any random food products, but food products that had nutritional value were selected because we are talking about FNHW enterprises. So, there were other enterprises also that were running restaurants or cafes. You could call it food-related enterprises, but we don't identify them as nutrition enterprises because the kind of products they were selling don't really add to the nutritional value of the community in any manner. So these 4 enterprises that we can see, if you look at the columns, the Mira Chikki Unit, Bakery, Umed Nutri Cookies, and Gold Star, these were 4 enterprises that produce nutrition-dense products. Santwanam and Women Health Volunteers and Didi Ki Rasoi are service sector enterprises, providing services for different health-related services. Most of these enterprises were CLF owned. Some were SHG women owned by themselves. One was a cooperative, 2 were cooperatives, and 1 Women Health Volunteers was individual services. The enterprises were small, 6 to 8, maximum of 9 employees. And they had a different range of customers. Some were Anganwadi centers supplying Anganwadi centers. Some were supplying in the open market, and some were supplying to certain villages. Next, please. Yeah. So we've done some of those. Now, the other enterprises that were Vitamix, Jyoti Industries, Sanitary Napkins, they again were small scale enterprises, but a lot of institutional customers. So these 4 enterprises had a lot of institutional customers. Either the government was purchasing or ICDS was purchasing from them. Very few were out in the open market. Products are out in the open market. Next, please. So while a major startup capital is needed, which is provided from SRLM or by the CLF or by some bank linkages, a lot of enterprises were making some bit of profit. We can see here the Mira Chikki Unit revenue per annum was 42 lakh rupees. Samriddhi Bakery was about 40 lakh rupees. Gold Star again 41 lakh rupees. And Didi Ki Rasoi had 46 lakh rupees. But it takes time for these enterprises to cut even and start making a profit. So on an average, a break-even point of about 3 years was noted. It takes about 3 years for an enterprise to start and then cut even and then start making a profit. So for the first 2-3 years, they will incur a loss or they will just about manage. We also saw that the record keeping of these enterprises were really not really very good. It took a lot of effort to get them to share their records and to decipher their records. So on an average, what we can say is that the enterprise models are doing well from a revenue perspective, but there are many other softer skills that the women running enterprises need to learn. Next, please. Again, this is similar information, largely the production capacities of these and the profit margins. Only one enterprise was not making a profit, which is the sanitary napkin unit, which was running in losses. Next, please. Okay, so on the basis of these many indicators, we assessed these enterprises and gave them certain marks and weightage on the basis of all these various parameters. Each of these parameters is further divided into smaller indicators on the basis of which they were assessed. So welfare component, by welfare we mean whether they generated income for the SHG members involved in it, whether they create any kind of economic empowerment, improved agency in the household, reach to the intended target beneficiaries, and local consumption. Replicability was another important factor, whether the way it is structured, whether it is replicable or not, the ingredients that they use, will they be easily available or not, what are the barriers to entry, what is the skilling requirement, cultural taste, etc., was taken as the replicability parameters. Sustainability, what is their assured market, if they have potential more market opportunities, maintenance of equipment, self-sufficiency, potential product diversification. Then, of course, profitability was the most important and a very crucial indicator, and scalability. Next, please. So, based on these parameters, what we mentioned here, we found that 4 enterprises were doing very well and scored a good 4.6 out of 5, which was a Mira Chikki unit, was making a good profit and faring very well on all of those above mentioned parameters. Santhanam, which is the private enterprise of women who provide blood pressure and other measurement facilities in each village, was also doing very well, making very good profit, with each SHG member earning up to 10 to 15,000 rupees per month through this endeavor. Jyoti Industries and Didi Ki Rasoi also fared quite well in all of the above mentioned parameters. Next, please. So basically what it means is that these 4 enterprises, just go back please for a second. These 4 enterprises are those that have the potential for replication and scaling up. And this finding has been suggested to NRLM to help other SRLMs scale up these particular units. And we're also developing a learning package on how to set up these units, the units mentioned here. If an SHG member or a CLF wants to set up these units, what are the steps to take? What are the things to consider? That kind of a learning package is in the last stages of development, and we'll soon be sharing it with everyone. Next, please. Finally, the conclusions. What makes an enterprise flourish? The first and foremost thing is effective market linkages. That appears to be the weakest link everywhere. Yes, I think I'm on time. So weakest link everywhere, and wherever there are effective market linkages, the units are doing well. So market linkages may be in the form of an assured purchase from any of the health department or WCD or any other department, such as Didi Ki Rasoi or Mira Ji Ki unit. Loyalty of customers also provides this effective market linkages, as seen with the Santhanam workers. The unique selling proposition. So for an enterprise to be successful, there had to be something unique about it in their product, such as Didi Ki Rasoi or Santhanam. Strategic and competitive pricing. It improves margins and market share. So pricing was extremely important. Timely revision of pricing was key to the whole thing. So when it is up to the unit itself, they do revise their pricing based on the market. But when it is related to government purchase, then pricing becomes an issue because government does not necessarily revise pricing based on inflation every year. So some of the enterprises that were heavily dependent on government purchase were suffering a loss. Strong skill training make for confident and accountable entrepreneurs. We do know that many of our areas, women find it very difficult to step out. There are certain gender barriers to establishing such kind of enterprises, stepping out, working in a business setup, and having those skills. So it is one barrier to cross to get women out of their homes. But the second barrier is that even if we teach the technical skills of making these products, there are other skills that are required for running a business. And often those skills are not taught to these women. So a more holistic training is needed when we want women to set up enterprises. So along with how to produce that particular product, we also need to build their skills on business, on record keeping, on marketing, on consumer interaction, entrepreneurial skills, and how to view their own enterprise in a larger market scenario. Convergence is key. Wherever the state purchase is assured, purchase by the Department of Health or Department of WCD is assured, the enterprises had the potential to flourish. Besides this, several other possibilities of convergence are also there that have not yet been explored, but ideas are floating. And working together with other departments and with private players will certainly enhance the possibility of these markets. I think that's it. Thank you very much. There were many other slides related to the key takeaways, but I'm not sharing those. Any of you who have questions, I'll be happy to answer. And also, if you're interested in this particular assessment, we have a more detailed slide deck, which we can share with you separately. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amrita. And thanks for really giving us that up and close view of how some of the HN enterprises in the NRLM system are performing on the set of 5 parameters which your team has identified. I'm sure the successful cases which you pointed out can be very useful models for other SRLMs to look at. And we look forward to the learning package also, which you talked about. I would now invite Dr. Sharika Yunus to make her presentation. She will be talking about the initiative by her organization, the United Nations World Food Programme, to improve the nutritional composition of take-home rations or dry rations consumed by mothers, adolescents, and young children. Over to you, Dr. Sharika.
Thanks a lot, Prasanth, for the introduction. As Prasanth said, I'll be talking about our work in Uttar Pradesh, which tries to bring together women's self-help groups as well as take-home rations with the dual objective of trying to prevent malnutrition in young children, as well as empower women and provide them with sustainable livelihoods. Can we go to the next slide, please? Right. So we've used take-home rations as an entry point, and I'd probably speak a bit about why take-home rations. Firstly, take-home rations has been used as an entry point because it caters to children between 6 to 36 months. It caters to pregnant lactating women as well as to adolescents. So within the nutrition space, we have this concept which is called as the first 1,000 days window of opportunity. And this particular age group, through the take-home ration, seamlessly juxtaposes the first 1,000 days windows of opportunity. The second reason why we are looking at take-home rations is that the ICDS scheme is near universal across the country. And within the ICDS scheme, within the 6 services that are there, take-home ration or supplementary nutrition is the service which is the most sought after and which has some of the highest levels of coverage. Further, as an organization, we believe that the take-home rations have an untapped potential. These take-home rations are usually distributed, but the link that needs to be made to diets, the link that could be made to complementary feeding, and the link that could be made to prevention of malnutrition has not really been explored to its maximum. Next slide. So with that background, as an organization, we undertook a nationwide study on the take-home rations across the value chain of the take-home rations in 2019. And what the study threw up was some very interesting facts. One of the objectives of the study was to see as to how well aligned the take-home rations are with the ICDS norms, as well as the global norms which exist for such products for young children. So when we look at the ICDS norm, more or less, most of the states comply to the caloric and the protein norms set in by the government of India. And the compliance also comes from the fact that ICDS and the supplementary nutrition within that is covered under the National Food Security Act, making it an entitlement. And for states which do not meet that entitlement, they're liable to penal action. And therefore, it's mandatory, upon states to meet the caloric and protein norms. But in trying to meet those caloric and protein norms, what states do is add huge amounts of sugar to the product, because sugar is a very cheap form of calories and it's very easy to up the levels of sugar in the product and easily meet the caloric norms. What the study also threw up was that by and large, the products have low vitamin and mineral content. They're largely not fortified products. Vitamins and minerals are really, really required for this particular age group. The products do meet the protein norms, but the quality of protein is questionable. The fat content is very, very limited. And there is the energy consistency or the energy density that needs to come from these products is not necessarily there. In terms of consumer acceptance, the study also, put forth the fact that there was very, very limited acceptability of these products on the ground. In most states, what would happen is that the mother would be receiving the same take-home ration that the child would be receiving. And a child enters the take-home ration space at 6 months, exits at 36 months, and throughout this, 2.5-year window, the child receives more or less the same product. And therefore, there's a huge amount of monotony also that was attached to the product. There were issues in terms of the quality of the product, quality assurance, and quality control. When we were trying to do this study in 2019, there were only about 10 states which could talk about some sort of quality parameters that they had in place for this particular, component of the THR. And even in those states, like there were labs which were in place, but the results of the lab would come when most of the product had already been consumed by the beneficiaries. And there was no link between a bad lab report and penal actions or any sort of, disincentivization which could have been done. And lastly, like I also alluded to in the previous slide, the government of India and the state governments spend a huge amount on supplementary nutrition as well as on take-home rations. But the Anganwadi worker doesn't think it as a part of her role to communicate to the, the caregivers or the parents of young children or the families of pregnant lactating women as to why this take-home ration is being given, what's the value add, how it needs to be consumed, etc. So there is absolutely no link between the product and the dietary aspect of it. Next slide, please. So taking all of these, aspects of take-home ration into consideration, we started working in several states, Uttar Pradesh being the first one, in doing like a systemic approach to the take-home rations across its value chain, which basically involved working on the product, setting up take-home ration units, working with women's self-help groups, developing quality protocols, labeling and packaging of the product, and social behavior change communication linked to the product. Next slide. So I've talked a fair deal about the fact that, the product that was being given is not a great product, but what is a great product? And there are global guidelines which exist. The energy density of the product should ideally be more than 0.8 kilocalories per gram. The product should be fortified. The energy contribution from sugar should be less than 10%. The fat contribution should be at least 20%. The protein contribution should be about 10 to 15%, and the PDCAS value of the product should be more than 70%. Ideally, in terms of the quality of protein, it's good to have milk within the product. And the product should have labeling, which should be aligned to the International Code of Marketing of the breast milk substitute, as well as the subsequent World Health Assembly resolutions. Next slide. So using all of this background, we started working with the government of Uttar Pradesh in 2020 and developed a series of products for young children, for pregnant lactating women, as well as for adolescent girls. For each age group, there were at least 2 variants of the products which were developed within the realms of practicality, whatever could be achieved in terms of taking away from the monotony of the product. So we tried to develop a sweet and a savory product. We had different products for different age groups. The product was all well packaged and distributed in color-coded packages. The packages also were used to convey some of the messages on good nutrition, food safety, how's the product to be consumed, etc. Next slide. You can sort of keep clicking till the, yeah. So the model that we're working with in Uttar Pradesh is a women self-help group decentralized take-home ration production model, wherein I guess it's slightly wrong to call them women self-help groups. They're associations of persons of women who've been put together. Each association of these persons of women has been given a fully mechanized, there's a fully mechanized take-home ration production unit which has been set up. Each of these take-home ration production units is more or less like a mini factory, and it has a production capacity of 5 metric tons per day, with 2.5 metric tons being produced in an 8-hour shift. The women's group do the local procurement of some of the raw materials. Some raw materials which are of high value, such as the packaging material, the skim milk powder, etc., are procured at the state level and then distributed to the women's self-help groups. Once this product is produced, it is then shipped to the Anganwadi centers, and then from the Anganwadi centers, it moves to the homes of the beneficiaries. Once it's verified that it's been distributed to the Anganwadi centers and received by the Anganwadi centers, then there are bills which are raised, which then go back to the Department of Women and Child Development, and the women get reimbursed based on the delivery. To give a push or to start, because we're actually talking about crores of paybacks being received by the take-home ration on an annual basis. And even for the minimal procurement of the raw materials on a monthly basis, there's a lakh many lakhs of investment that is needed. And therefore, the Department of Women and Child Development gives 2 months of advance, depending on the number of beneficiaries that each take-home ration unit will cater to, so that the women have the wherewithal to start producing the product. Next slide. I guess I've already talked a bit about the functioning of the take-home ration. There are about 20 women who run these take-home ration units. They work across a couple of shifts. Usually they work across 2 shifts, but some units also work across 3 shifts. The women's selection is defined on the basis of well-defined criterion. They are trained on some of the aspects that Amrita was, alluding to in her presentation in terms of financial literacy. They're trained on nutrition. They're trained on process of production, procurement, record keeping, etc. And they receive a monthly reimbursement. Each women group in the unit makes about 8,000 rupees per month. Next slide. What's been working well is, apart from meeting the nutritional objective to which as an organization we are, wedded to, what's also helped is it's led to promotion of income generation activities and women empowerment. There is a lot of procurement that happens locally, and therefore it encourages local agricultural economies. Given the fact that the take-home rations is produced by women within the same vicinity and women which come from the same families and villages, there's a huge amount of faith and trust on the product that is there. Overall, in our field visits, we see that the consumption of the product has improved compared to the previous product which was given. Next slide.
Dr. Sharika, we have 2 more minutes left.
Sure. I guess this is my second last slide, probably. So in terms of the current status of the project, it's completely owned. As the World Food Program, we piloted it in a couple of blocks for the government. And now it's being scaled up. There were 2 units that we had set up. As we speak today, there are about 195 such units which are operational across the state of Uttar Pradesh, and there's been huge investment by the government of Uttar Pradesh towards this. There's a project management unit which is in place within the State Rural Livelihood Mission, which is supporting this entire scale-up process. Next slide. So this is just the way forward, and I'll probably leave you on this slide in terms of, it's not as if the project does not have its share of challenges. It does have its fair amount of share of challenges. But then what has really helped is the fact that the government is completely behind the project. It's a very high visibility project for the government of Uttar Pradesh. And therefore, there are interventions which are being done in terms of also linking the women to the open market. There are interventions which are being put in place so that these THR units become green in terms of their overall implementation. Some of the climate aspects of it are considered as well. And I'll probably leave it at that, and happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Yeah, we will have a round of questions towards the end, of course. Thanks, Dr. Sharika, for taking us through WFP's gender transformative and nutrition intensive approach of using the SHG platform for THR production. I would now invite Mr. Naveen C., who is the Chief Operating Officer, NRLM, from Kutumshri Mission, Kerala, to talk about their work in development of FNHW enterprises in a number of non-conventional businesses. We have so far heard about food production, etc. But Kutumshri has ventured into other businesses as well, and we are keen to hear from him about that. Over to Mr. Naveen.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Naveen, Chief Operating Officer, NRLM, and Program Officer for Gender and FNHW, Kutumshri, Kerala. First, I would like to thank the organizers of this webinar, especially the PCA India, for giving me this opportunity to do a small presentation on the challenges, the strategies, and the way forward in the case of health and nutrition enterprises. So to begin with, we know Kudumbashree being the biggest organization or women collective in the world, it has always strived hard for the empowerment of women, both economically and socially. So from the very inception itself, Kudumbashree has focused on the entrepreneurship of these women. So the prime focus of Kudumbashree has always been into enterprises. And here we will focus on the health and nutrition enterprises only. We know that enterprises has always been the result of local demand or social demand. Sometimes it evolves as or from an opportunity. I would like to list some of the enterprises which are in the health and nutrition sector. Next slide. Say Santhanam, then Nutrimix unit, and Haritha Kerala, sorry, Haritha Karma Sena. These are the some of the enterprises that we are looking today. Santhanam is a public health initiative. It was jointly run by the Kudumbashree Mission and Health Action by People. It's a non-governmental organization. One of the biggest issues that Kerala faces is the issue of lifestyle diseases. So way back in 2005 itself, Kudumbashree entered into the interventions in the lifestyle diseases and formed this Santhanam unit. So this is a home-based screening unit. I think we all be knowing that the. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So it's an initiative for the periodic screening of people for detecting the early diseases and for screening these lifestyle diseases. And as part of this program, health interventions like providing awareness creation, then doorstep screening, etc. were done. Then what we did is we identified women from the SHG groups, then gave training to them for screening of these lifestyle diseases, then provided equipments to them, and training was with the assistance of HAP. And the next slide, some of the challenges that the Santhanam units faced were the competition from private labs, then free checkups were provided at the government and panchayat levels, then lack of approval of the results by some doctors. These are the important challenges that were faced by the Santhanam units. Next. The previous slide, please. Once again, previous. So there was a lot of competition from the private labs. So how we overcome this was the services of this Santhanam team were given at an affordable rate compared to those levied by the private labs, and the services were given at the doorsteps. So people, especially the aged people, did not require the accompanying person, then transport facilities, etc., for having their periodic checkups. Then the free checkups provided at government and panchayat levels. So we made it mandatory that a Santhanam unit must be present at every event organized by the panchayats and the Kudumbashree. Then lack of approval by the results of these approval of the results by the doctors. Initially, the doctors were reluctant to accept the results provided by the Santhanam volunteers, but we formed some what say coordination committees at the ward level and panchayat level, including these Santhanam volunteers and the doctors from PHCs and CHCs to intervene in the health sector. So then onwards, it became a collective work of this team to combat the health issues. So that is how we accomplished the approval of these results by the doctors. Next. So what we are planning next is the skill upgradation training to these Sadhana volunteers with the help of this health action by people. Then we are planning to launch new batches. Then we are planning to give the Sadhana volunteers more skills related to the geriatric care and to equip them to venture into new areas like wound dressing, insulin injection, traditional massaging techniques, etc. Then, as part of this Grama Panchayat's regular or routine intervention in the health sector, some screening processes for detecting the non-communicable diseases are going on, and we are planning to include these Sandhana volunteers as part of this screening. Then, another program introduced by Government of Kerala is Anemia Free Kerala, Viva, and we are planning to include these Sandhana volunteers in this program also. So this is the way forward in the case of Santwanam. Now coming to an enterprise in the nutrition sector, that is NutriMix. Amritam NutriMix, which is this is a food supplement provided to the children of age group from 6 months to 3 years, then adolescent, then pregnant women and lactating women. This NutriMix supplement is provided through the Anganwadis mainly. And we have almost 273 units at present. And the NutriMix is given at the cost of 73 rupees, 73 per kg. But it is the cost is borne by the government. It is given free of cost at the Anganwadis. So it is a convergence program with the SHGs. Next. The main challenges that were faced by the NutriMix units were, suppose the government funding stops, then it will be difficult for these NutriMix units to sustain. And for that, we are planning to make some value addition training to these NutriMix units, and there is product diversification for these NutriMix units, and they are now they are competing with the private players in the market. So even if the government funding stops, they will be sustained. Then lack of sufficient certified labs for quality check. This is another challenge that we face, and we are planning to develop our own lab in Palakkad district for giving certification to this NutriMix products. Then open market competition for the other products of NutriMix units. So I've already told that we are focusing on value addition products and diversified products from NutriMix units. So that will help these units to compete with the private players in the market. And the way forward, we have got almost 273 units at present. We are planning to expand it to all panchayats, and we'll be setting up our own lab, then introducing a variety of products, and we'll be giving skill upgradation training for venturing into the value addition products. Now coming to Haritha Karma Sena, which is another micro enterprise in the health sector. We know that one of the main problems faced by the local government institutions as well as other governments is the problem of waste management. So Kudumbashree also ventured into this waste management issue by forming the Haritha Karma Sena as micro enterprises units. So this is a decentralized waste management initiative of Kudumbashree with the convergence of LSGs. At present, we have around 4,700 units, and a total of around 34,000 SHG women are part of this Haritha Sena. Then these Haritha Sena units are there in all the LHGs, and almost 75% of the houses have been covered by this Haritha Sena. Usually they collect non-biodegradable waste only, but in some parts they collect the biodegradable waste also. Now, coming to the challenges faced by Haritha Sena. The first challenge they faced was about the user fee collection. See, most of the houses were reluctant to give the user fee to this Haritha Sena. What the government did was, government has made it mandatory that every household should pay a user fee to this Haritha Sena at the rate of 50 rupees per house in the Grama Panchayat levels and 70 rupees per house in the municipality level. And for shops, it will be coming to around 100 rupees monthly rate. So, and another challenge was the non-availability of their own vehicle, and the material collection center was far away from the collection point. So now we have asked these Grama Panchayats to earmark funds in their annual plans to provide a vehicle to this Haritha Sena. Now there is one vehicle per unit. Almost in all Grama Panchayats, we have at least one vehicle, but we are trying to secure or more vehicles for their purpose. Then another one was the manual segregation rather than mechanized segregation. Now we are giving the Haritha Sena volunteers training on this mechanized segregation. So from the next year onwards, they will be using this mechanized segregation techniques. And the way forward, next. We will be giving awareness to the society about the need of handing over all these biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste to the Haritha Sena. Then we are planning to give training to Haritha Sena members about the e-waste collection, segregation, and recycling. Then one mobile app has been introduced called Haritha Mitra. And almost all the houses have been mapped into this mobile app with the help of a QR code. So with this mobile app, we'll be able to monitor and manage the quantity of or volume of waste collected, the user fee collected, and all details regarding this waste management. And regarding vehicle, we are planning to buy more and more vehicles for their daily use. Next.
Mr. Naveen, we have 2 more minutes to go. Thank you.
So I'll be focusing on one more enterprise, which is called Harsham. It's a geriatric care project similar to this Santwanam unit. It aims at providing service of trained women in geriatric care sector. At present, we have around 110 geriatric care executives. Out of these, 650 trained. The main challenges that this Harsham volunteers face is the lack of willingness to work in homes, then attitude of society towards these caregivers, and the lack of professionalism. So, as way forward, we are planning to give professional training to this, Harsham geriatric care executives with the help of a consultancy agency. And we are revisiting the name of this Harsham project as K Care, that is K for Care or Kerala Care, and introducing this project as a dignified work. And for ensuring this security and sustainability, we are trying to add more and more services to this sector, like nursing care, then catheterization, then and we are planning to make this course a certified course so as to make it a secure one and sustainable. So that is all about Harsham. It's almost similar to this Santwanam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen. Thanks for talking about all the challenges which your units have faced in each business, and also the strategies which you have developed for addressing these issues. It's really impressive that some of the Kutumshri enterprises have established a presence across the whole state. I would now invite Mr. Sujit Ranjan, Associate Director Nutrition at Tata Trusts. Sujit will mainly talk about the work of Tata Dairy Mission and its contribution to rural women's lives. Over to you, Sujit.
Thank you very much, Prashant. And first of all, it gives me an immense pleasure to be a part of today's this webinar and learning lots of successful stories. And I represent Tata Trust. Go to the next slide. And Tata Trust, like we know that one of the oldest philanthropic organization. And next, and taking this women's collective actions and taking this like the contribution of women in health, nutrition, and other development sector from the very beginning. And from the Jamshedji Tata, this is a very clear message, like how we can go for a very vibrant society if the women's entrepreneurs can come forward. And then only we can achieve the scale and impact, then sustainability and the quality delivery. Next. And the entire focus was on CISS approach, that's the community at the epicenter. And then only we can get the irreversible impact with a sustainable and scale. And just for, I'm happy to share, no, go to the next. I'm happy to share that so far as this women's collective actions, the power of women's collective actions is concerned in Tata Trust, there are 5 development themes. It's health, nutrition, water and sanitation, livelihood, and education. So they are playing an important role in all the sectors, and we are engaging them, we are working with them almost in all the sectors. So it's a kind of, it's not like we are building the, we are providing that support, say for in one group, but trying to get the best in the other themes also, that is nutrition, health, as well as wash. Next. And the entire motive is livelihood opportunity, that was started with the livelihood opportunity and improve health and nutrition through women's empowerment. So that was the base of this initiative initiated by Tata Trust. Next. And we are, and before going for the next, I'm happy to share that most of you are aware that empowering women, that was very clearly reflected in NFHS 5 data, that the percentage of currently married women who usually participate in the household decisions, or those who are those who have almost 12 months, they are paid in cash, and also the they are having the like the owing the house or the carrying the mobile phone, the bank accounts, and hygiene methods they are using for protecting during the menstrual period. So this is all the efforts which was talked by Dr. Sharika, Dr. Amita, and Mr. Naveen. All those things are like, this is the thing we have seen in NFHS 5 and how that is directly helped in health and nutrition outcomes. Next. So this is our learning, like we started this power of women's collective and from the early days when there was only 2 things where that the consumption need was primarily consumption need, where the women's were coming forward for a small business, starting their small business, buying their small equipments or some marriage or some education purposes. So that was not a kind of the entrepreneurship was not a very clearly visible. So when the production loan started, and I fully remember this journey when this was started in agriculture production or the livelihood or even the entrepreneurship and also our learning is like in every society, almost 12% you'll find the people, those who are having the entrepreneurship understanding skills. So how that can further groom and further enhanced. So that was the role played by Tata Trust and our associate organizations, like how the financial needs can be understood by the respondents and how that can use it in a very prominent manner. Next. And here, though this picture is only talking about the like our dairy association with the women's group in dairy business, but there are some very good example, like in the field of nutrition also, like Gomo. You might be aware, like Gomo was started by Tata Trust in collaboration with Marx, and in very closely that was also associated with self-help groups. And Gomo was the snacks, very nutritious snacks, and how that can be used at a very low price at community level, and self-help groups can make a difference in that. So the purpose was how we can build the sustainable livelihood, and that can further like strengthen our health and nutrition outcomes. Next. And the factors usually we are broadly, I can say, like we are taking 4 important factors to consider a group. That's the leadership, and leadership, it's very important. And I also feel like the role of promoter is also promoter organization is also very important here, that how the leadership part, especially the team management, because the Didi is coming from the individual to a group. Many of them are having this understanding, like they will be the kind of play a role of a lever, but how they can be a part of the stakeholder and how they can play that role. So the team management, the stakeholders management, how they are dealing with the many suppliers, the bank authorities, then the government officials and the functionaries. And the most important is the negotiation skills with the different stakeholders. That's the important. And also the demand, how the business plan can be developed, the demand forecasting and the growth forecasting, and working cycle product. That's the important part we have learned, and we are trying to that is part of our entire ecosystem. And capacity assessment is also like the micro and macro markets, like how we can take like they are having the understanding about the policies, the system, the production model, the digital and financial learning. So these are the capacity how that is there, and what can be built, and whether we are in a position, and whether that is possible or not. And bookkeeping and governance system, that's the core, I can say. The transparency, the digital software, then the regular meetings, how they are taking place, and the role of the here again I'm saying the promoter organizations is very important here, to ensure that, to bring the professionalism and the regular meetings. So even in our dairy, that initiative that was initiated in Uttar Pradesh, but now is in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, then Punjab, Maharashtra, and it's a very established model we are having. And it's not only just dairy. We'll talk about like how that is helping in the field of health and nutrition also. Next. So the dairy mission, as I mentioned, that was started primarily like the transform in the income, but it was moved from the project to the institution mode, and how the protein deficiency can be addressed through this initiative, and how the milk product in the dietary management of childhood can take place. So the we engage them for nutrition promotion also at the village level, at the Anganwadi center level, and at the community level through that platform. And it's it's a kind of in a very comprehensive, I can say, this work plan was developed in collaboration with all the groups. Next. And our learning is like the managerial and technical support which was provided, especially the feasibility assessment and how they are playing the role of the head of the women's group, and how a strong governance system they can create, and so that that can sustain and they can get the best in the coming days. And also the putting in IT, that's the most important thing in the present time, how the infrastructure in place, and they are using it, they are understanding it, and also getting the best from the management from of this group. And the finance control and audit, how that can bring the transparency, and the review system can be generated that can bring the more transparency, what went well, what went wrong, and how that can be corrective measures can be taken if something went wrong. Next. And the socio-economic impact, our learning is though it's a kind of started with the income generation, the women is in a leadership position, they increase saving and reduce migration, and also like the back to the rural economy and boost the women's empowerment, and how that can be used in our health and nutrition, our themes, and they can play an important role. In Tata Trust is also going for the energy dense food production in 2 states. So we are in process to engage them even for the production of the energy dense food, and how that can be provided to the severe acute malnourished children and the moderate acute malnourished children. And that will be a kind of in addition to the supplementary food which is coming from the ICDS. So that is already, that process is on, and we are in process to engage them in a more meaningful manner. So these are the few learnings we are having, and how we can engage them, and how we build that their capacity, and how they are coming forward as a kind of real power of women's collective. Thank you very much. Next. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Sujit, for taking us through the entire philosophy and journey of Tata Trusts in promoting women's enterprises, and for pointing out the key factors, the 4 key factors that are critical to making these enterprises work. Thanks also for talking about your upcoming work on the energy dense foods. That's going to be interesting. Thanks to all other speakers as well. Before we move on to the Q&A session, I think it would be helpful to do a quick recap of what we heard today from all the speakers. Dr. Amrita, to start off with, she spoke about the 11 HN enterprises which her team has studied and rated on a multidimensional scale, and shortlisted 4 of those as successful. She concluded that it was important for the HN enterprises to look for assured markets, develop a USP, whether in terms of product or market or price points, be ready to revise prices in line with the competitors, develop the soft skills and business skills of the women, and explore the opportunities of convergence with the private sector and with government departments. Dr. Sharika described the THR production and distribution model of WFP and the role of WFP in its rollout in Uttar Pradesh. And she also explained how it works well at so many different levels. It generates income for women. It helps in the growth of the local agriculture economy. It helps in community ownership of the THR because women themselves are directly involved. And it improves the access to THR, which is so crucial for all those who are at the risk of malnutrition. Mr. Naveen, speaking for Kudumshri, shared the experience of the mission with respect to introducing FNHW enterprises in Kerala in so many diverse sectors: public health, food supplements, waste management, geriatric care, interesting ways of doing business. And he talked about a wide range of challenges as well. I mean, I could notice attitudinal challenges like attitude of society towards caregivers, commercial challenges of competition from private sector, logistical challenges. There is a lack of transport, etc. And then there are strategies to meet these challenges. That's the most important part. Dr. Sujit talked about how the Tata Trusts have used the power of women's collectives to produce dairy products to improve nutritional status, particularly among women and children. And they see this as a high impact sector because it can make a difference to nutritional status of both women and children. He also talks about how these dairies have impacted the lives of women both in social terms by improving their leadership and by slowing down the migration, as well as in economic terms, so by increasing their incomes and savings. So very fascinating insights from all four presenters, and profuse thanks to all of them. We would now take up a few questions from the audience. Dr. Amrita, I noticed there are a few questions for you in the chat box. Maybe you can take those first, and then we can move on to the audience for live questions.
I think we should be able to unmute.
Mute me.
Yeah.
Now it's fine. Yes, thank you. Yes, so there are many questions. I've tried to answer them in the chat box itself, but one of the questions that I could not answer in the chat box, I'd like to mention now. I think somebody has asked.
I think you have answered questions from Dr. Sheila and Denison. There is one question from Suchandra Nandi
Yes.
on the criteria.
Yeah, that's the one I haven't answered yet. So yes, it's a very good question. We searched a lot on what kind of criteria we should use, and is there any existing scale on which we can grade these enterprises. And we came across these set of scales that had different parameters from different small business models. We consolidated these and came up with our own criteria. The detailed scale is available. If you would like to see it, I can share the presentation. But regarding income, I think your question is related to income. So we took it as welfare. So what is the welfare potential of the enterprise? In that welfare potential, we had income generation, economic empowerment, improved agency of the women, the reach of the intended target beneficiaries, and local consumption of the product or service. Income generation was defined as whether the workers earn salaries and are able to make their own individual purchases from the salary. So the salary that doesn't necessarily go into the household kitty, but the woman herself is being able to use that money. She has that additional surplus for using that money for herself. Economic empowerment, of course, is about savings. If they were able to save from what they were earning, improved agency, as you know, being able to take decisions within the family, the reach of the particular enterprise to the target beneficiaries, and local consumption. So all of these had for 1 point each, and it was a 5-point scale on which each of these questions that I just mentioned had 1 point. So that was the way to grade on the welfare aspect. Each of the other aspects was graded similarly on sub-points, whether on a 5-point or a 4-point scale. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Dr. Amrita. There is one question from Sadat Noor about was the study able to also identify the reasons why some of the enterprises were not doing well?
Yeah, I think I answered that, but I'll just mention it that yes, We did find out some of the reasons why enterprises are not doing well. Sharika would be also able to give her insights into that. But largely it is because whenever the government is the purchaser of the goods, then price revision doesn't take place on a yearly basis, which it should. So prices are defined and fixed in the beginning. So for the next 3 years, even though there is inflation, the purchase price will not be revised. So they start going into losses because they have to put money from their own side. Secondly, the market linkages are a big question. They are big, weak area for these enterprises. They are small local enterprises. They don't know how to increase their consumer base. And some states are looking for market experts to help these women establish market linkages. In fact, NRLM has tied up with Flipkart and Amazon to sell products made by SHGs, but there's still a lot of work to do on that area.
Thanks. Dr. Sujit, there is a question from Archana Ghosh on the energy dense foods. So she would like to know more about it, whether the initiative will be through the Anganwadi centers or through some other mechanism.
So, first of all, thank you very much for this very, I think, one of the important questions I can say. Like in our, Tata Trust is also promoting CMAM model, like the community-based management for acute malnutrition, and how to provide the safe, effective, energy-dense food to the children through the Anganwadi platform. And here the purpose is like how we are already in touch, like how the composition of Balamrutam Plus or can be provided to the to our SAM children, those who are not having the any medical need to be referred to the NRC, and that can be managed at household level. So that is the plan we are having, and already we are in touch with the state government and our NIN as well as Telangana Foods in this regard, and how that can be that can be prepared in a very decentralized model with the women's group.
Thanks. There is another question for you from Biraj Sarangi.
Yeah.
Are you going to produce RUTF through SHGs or will it be, and will this be a community-based model?
So it's a not at all. It's a kind of, as I mentioned, it's a locally acceptable culturally, and as I mentioned, Balamrutam Plus, the same product we are trying to bring to other states through the government channel, through the government system.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, there's another question, Amrita, for you in the chat.
Yeah,
yeah,
I can see that. Yeah, so convergence, is there any thought in exploring the PPP models with other government departments? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so we do have models in Bihar already on not the grievance redressal desk, but a help desk. I think Bihar team will be able to explain that better. But we have established a help desk in large hospitals where the SHG women can go and link up with larger hospitals and be directed to the right places. These are called Swasth Mitras. They are located in large hospitals in Bihar, and we are hoping for establishment of this kind of an enterprise in other states as well. Regarding the district hospital, linen washing, etc., yes, there are models in Bihar again that are looking at hospital housekeeping and other such tasks for hospital maintenance in Bihar. So this is an emerging area. Convergence with government departments is an emerging area, and we are constantly in touch with other departments to look at the possibilities and potential of SHG groups as in small enterprises within the health system. It's largely about the financial aspects related to this that causes departments to rethink and hesitate, but there are some excellent working models.
Thanks. Dr. Sujit, there is one question coming your way about GOMO and its success. And is it available in the market? How large is the market for GOMO at the moment?
So GOMO was, as I said, GOMO was started Tata Trust and Marks, but GOMO at present that is not in the market. That was started sometime in the year 2018, and but at present that is not there in the market. And they are also, like the Marks is trying to bring some new product in the coming days, so that that will be more culturally acceptable at the community level, and also like how to make it more nutritious snacks. So they are working on it, and they will definitely get back to us soon.
Thanks.
But at present, GOMO is not in the market.
Not in the market. Okay. Mr. Naveen, there is.
Can't hear you, Prasanna.
Prasanna, you muted.
Sorry. So this is a question for Mr. Naveen. Could you please share price-related information for Santwanam scheme? What is the amount being charged by SHG women and the amount they are earning in a month?
Sure. The Santwanam volunteers charge just 20 rupees for this blood sugar test, and only 10 rupees for BMI test. And these are only nominal costs compared to the charges levied by the private side. And these volunteers are able to gain roughly an amount of 20,000, average 20,000, excluding their expenses. So
that's great.
Their
That's
monthly
very
income,
affordable.
they can earn up to 20,000.
Great. That's a very affordable model. We can now open it up to the.
How we can make them sustainable is that, as I told earlier, in every event organized by Kudumbashree and other local self-governments, wherever a crowd greater than 50 in number gathers, there we have made a Santwanam unit as mandatory, so that people gathering there can have their tests done at nominal cost.
Okay. And there is a follow-up question to that from Monica Chauhan. Is there a presence of these initiatives in the urban market as well?
No, at present we are doing it in the rural area.
Okay. We have another 2 minutes to go, so we can probably take a quick question from the audience outside the chat box. This is open to everyone. Okay. Yeah, I think there is one more additional question in chat box. Can you read it out?
Yeah, so there's one more question in the chat box. Any mentorship offered by organizations?
So is this directed to anybody or anyone? Okay.
I think all of you can give it.
Yeah, Tata Trust, Kudumbashree, all of them can talk about mentorship. Mentorship of social enterprises. Sujit, would you like to take that up?
So we are also in Tata Trust, there is a kind of, we are promoting this, and like the this how to young professionals can come forward for It's not called mentorship, but it's kind of higher learning opportunity and kind of engagement with the various other institutions. So that opportunity is there, and we are having our associate organizations, which is an associate organization is managing the entire thing. That is a part of Tata Trust ecosystem. So if you visit our website, that is there, and that is that's a wonderful opportunity. We are reaching out to like the rural areas and the most I think needy people also, like how they can come forward for such kind of opportunity with national and international also.
Great to know that. So we are now coming to the end of this session, but there is still some time to get a quick feedback from all of you about how you feel about the whole session. We have a small quick poll for you, and I would request Vineha to run the poll. Please click your response, and we would get a quick snapshot of what you feel about it. Okay. How many participants do we have? Around 70? 64? Okay. We're still going. 46, 48. Good. That was a really positive feedback. We have hit the half century, and almost everyone feels this is a very useful or a useful webinar. That makes us very hopeful, and please keep looking out for the next webinar in the series, which will be organized sometime in December. We will announce the date as we approach the next month. So that's it from us. Thanks for filling in your valued feedback. And thanks for joining us all today. Have a nice evening ahead. And thanks to the presenters for being here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.